Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tech4Eva meets London Tech Week. Tech4Eva is a Switzerland-based accelerator program for international Femtech startups, and we have organized today's event to bring together the Femtech communities of Tech4Eva and the UK. I am Charlotte Chenu, Science and Innovation Officer at the Embassy of Switzerland in the UK, and I will be moderating today's event. We have gathered today investors, health industry leaders, and NHS experts to discuss about how to successfully scale a Femtech startup. Our speakers will share success stories and insights on what is happening within the sector in the UK and in Europe. I would like to thank all our event partners for their support, without whom this event would not have been possible. Tech4Eva Accelerator is a joint initiative between the leading EPFL Innovation Park and the health insurer Groupe Mutuel. I'd like to introduce you EPFL Innovation Park co-director and Tech4Eva program director, Lan Zhou-Gillet, to share some details and update on the acceleration program. Lan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to meet you online to present Tech4Eva to London ecosystems, together with Nicolas Loyot, the co-founder of this initiative, who will be chairing the panel discussion later on. With Tech4Eva, we ambitions to create an innovation platform in Switzerland and beyond for high potential Femtech entrepreneurs and innovators around the world to join force with forward-thinking corporations to advance and to improve the technology and solution related to the women's health. Next slide. For those who are not familiar with the term of Femtech, it is used to describe technology and solutions designed to enhance women's overall wellness, period and pelvic health, for instance, fertility, quality of life during pregnancy and menopause. It could take the forms of wearables, diagnostics, drugs, therapeutics, medical devices, mobile apps, etc. So there are several reasons why we launched this initiative that has greater focus on women's health. First of all, we notice while female life expectancy is higher than men in general, women on average spend less of their lifetime in good health compared to men due to their biological condition and changes. In some countries, and according to the data from UK, for instance, female life expectancy has been improved more slowly than male's life expectancy since the 1980s. Other reason is that although women make up 50% of the population, the impact of female-specific health conditions such as heavy menstrual bleeding, pregnancy-related issue, menopause on women's lives is overlooked, and there is currently less treatment. This has a direct impact on women's workforce participation, their productivity, and the outcome for the economy. On the other hand, we know that high-quality research and evidence is essential to the improvement of women's health, yet studies suggest that gender bias does exist in clinical trials. There are not always systematic protocols for diagnostic and treatment for women's subjects. There is less evidence and data on how conditions affect women differently, and this could impact on the health outcome of women. And for some diseases, women are more likely to be misdiagnosed than men. Next slide. So the mission of this Tech4Eva initiative is, first of all, to further raise awareness that women's health deserve better attention. It is also our aim to identify, to promote, to co-create concrete Femtech solutions to accelerate the growth of startups offering Femtech solution, and by doing so, to foster and engage the community with not only women, but also men. As we all know, taking care of the health of the well-being of the woman is to take care of the well-being of the whole society and its economy. Next slides. We built this Tech4Eva initiative with the philosophy that we offer our equity-free help to high-potential femtech startup companies. The initiative is, as mentioned, currently supported by the financial resources and industrial insight of the insurance company Group Mutual, with a network and track record of EPAF in New Park to bring startups to success. EPAF in New Park is the major science park in Switzerland, hosting around 200 high-tech startups and innovation units of large corporates. This joint initiative operates with a model of corporate and startup partnership by involving senior corporate experts as well as successful femtech startup founders as mentor to provide startup with access to potential customer and business partners. We also leverage on our international network to involve high potential startups from the globe to facilitate their access to other markets. Next slide. So thanks to the support of our partners for this very first edition of Tech4Eva, we got 110 applications coming from different parts of the world, of which 33 are Swiss startups. And very interesting to notice that 65% of the founders are women themselves. Next slide. Tech4Eva is meant to be inclusive. While 15 growth startup and 15 early stage startup are selected into two different cohorts with distinguished tailor-made programs, we invite all the 111 applicants to stay within the community and to participate in networking and open innovation activities to address unmet needs together with the medical and healthcare professionals, as well as corporate responsible, working in the well-being of their female collaborators. Next slide. So here you have a quick overview of the three distinguished activity streams in parallel with respective objectives and participant group. For growth startups, we help them to refine their growth strategy, improve their visibility, meet potential customer, and raise funding from VCs through mentorship, peer-to-peer workshop, tailored international roadshow as this one. And for early stage startups, we help them to validate their business concept with healthcare professionals, refine their business model, and to run pilot projects with healthcare institutions or life science companies through training, coaching session, and community workshop. You can follow some of this activity that are public from our Tech4Eva website. Next slide. So through today's roadshow, we would like to further raise awareness and of not only the importance of women's health, but also the potential of the femtech market. We warmly welcome you, the audience, to participate in the following dialogue, how to build a strong partnership in the healthcare systems to accelerate the growth of existing startups and also to foster new innovation and help new ventures. We welcome you to get connected to the Tech4Eva startups that are presenting today and to check out our focus group meetup sessions so as to become part of community to grow this this initiative into a strong international endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Lan, for this overview. I'd like to also invite you to connect with Tech4Eva through its social channels that you can see on your screen. You'll be able to follow the progress of the cohort companies and get updates on the women's health innovation. Now it's time to meet the participating innovators and growth stage startups who are part of this program. Although you will only hear the presentation from the 15 selected growth stage companies, we want to share with you the additional 15 early stage projects, which you can also find on Tech4Eva's website. Let's hear now 8 of the 15th growth startups within the 2021 cohort.
I'm Ana Luisa, and I'm the founder of Impli. What makes implantables great is that you can really closely monitor from the interstitial fluid. And where we want to act first is combating and understanding hormone profiles of women. And looking at the IVF sector, where frequent monitoring of hormone levels is very common and very necessary in order to create precise treatments and then increase the precision and safety of IVF cycles. And we do this with our small implantable biosensors that we have. These devices are about 60 millimeters by 2 millimeters wide and play directly into a smartphone. These sensors measure estradiol, progesterone, and luteinizing hormone, and that increases convenience, precision, and safety of women. We're currently in the process of completing our manufacturing plan and executing the first manufacturing of this. Thank you very much.
I'm Anna Panigasi, obstetrician. This is me on the right. I had to deliver this baby early due to preeclampsia. Every day all over the world, women and babies still die from it. The resolution for preeclampsia is to deliver the baby, sometimes too early and with severe complications. When we do know who's at risk, there are interventions that can improve outcomes. Using one of the largest biobanks of blood samples and a world-class team, we have invested over 8 million euro to develop a highly effective screening test. This is Prepsia. We have signed a letter of intent with an American test lab to bring Prepsia to the market in the USA within 7 to 10 months. This will be the first commercial output of our deep technology pipeline. We are raising 2.6 million euro from existing and new investors to bring this test to market and be highly profitable within 24 months. Prepsia is a reality and is transforming maternal health. Thank you.
I'm Matthias Wipp, CEO and co-founder of Mom Diagnostics. We care about the health of pregnant women, and our first test in development is a rapid diagnostic test for preeclampsia. Preeclampsia causes around 500,000 infant and 75,000 maternal deaths every year. Of that, it causes a huge economic burden. So early and accurate identification of preeclampsia is crucial to minimize complications. We are developing a rapid blood test, which is used during routine pregnancy checkups at the doctor's office. So the test is very easy to use. It's a drop of blood loaded onto a single-use cartridge, and in combination with our handheld reader, the doctors have the result ready within a few minutes. So our solution is to improve the diagnosis and thereby save costs for the healthcare system and save lives. Please contact me if you're interested to learn more. Thank you very much.
My name is Diana Moore, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Therapeutics. Stress urinary incontinence is a disease that affects over 200 million people worldwide. Every fourth woman is affected after childbirth, and the dark numbers of the taboo disease are much higher. SUI represents a huge economic burden to both healthcare and society, and the comorbidities are numerous, ranging from infectious through isolation, even up to severe depression. Having no optimal satisfactory solution on the market, I decided to take the chance of translating what I learned during my PhD into a real life-changing solution with the mission to advance a personalized cell therapy platform for skeletal muscle regeneration. My team of experienced researchers and physicians managed a successful translation of the process from the bench to the clinic, supported by 6.5 million euro by the European Commission, bringing a brighter future to all silently suffering patients in need. Thank you a lot.
My name is Jade. I'm head of content and premium business at Preglife. And Preglife is the #1 baby and pregnancy app in Northern Europe. We know that the connection between parent and kid in the beginning is very important to how the kid grows. So we want to give the tools for families to be able to get this connection early on. Right now we are in 10 markets and we're going to keep expanding. But our biggest markets are Poland, Sweden, and Germany. So right now, content is the core of our app. We have a huge team of midwives and experts that creates all of this content. So have a bunch of features like helping, supporting this period. And of course, we have many other projects ongoing to improve our user experience in the app, which is premium content, expansion of free content, and improvements with UX and UI. And currently, we have thousands of great reviews on the App Store and Google Play. Please contact us if you feel that something that I said is very interesting. Thank you very much.
So my name is Shivina. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Testmate Health. And today I want to talk about quite an unsexy topic, and that's sexually transmitted diseases. Rates of STDs are rising globally, and there is still no rapid and easy test that can be done quickly to diagnose these common STDs, such as chlamydia and gonorrhea. For example, chlamydia and gonorrhea today are the leading infective causes of infertility. But the treatment is so simple with a simple dose of antibiotics. The technology to achieve this is complex and it crosses multiple scientific disciplines, and we combine 3 breakthrough innovations in order to achieve our product. If we compare this to others, such as Everly Well Let's Get Checked, their version of self-testing still needs you to post samples to a lab for processing. We're supported by government grants, and we recently closed our first seed funding round, which was VC backed. So for anyone who's interested, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and we can set up a call. Thank you very much.
I'm Andrew Tasker. I'm the CEO and founder of Viveka Biomed, and I'd like to introduce our new product, Contrail Active Guard, which is a bladder support for women to address stress urinary incontinence. It's inserted into the vagina in a similar way to a tampon, though it works very differently. And the core differential about Contrail is it's designed to stop leakage. Totally non-invasive, drug-free, and we've got 7 clinical trials that support its efficacy. And women can either use it just during exercise or up to 16 hours a day. As a business, this is a Class 2A medical device. We have got our CE mark, and we actually launched the UK market, and we're already looking to launch into Europe. We have secured a listing with Boots. We do believe there's an opportunity for healthcare reimbursement as well, and we've made a UK drug tariff application. It really means that women can get back into exercise and with all the other health benefits of it. Thank you very much.
WOM is data science for women's health. I'm Laurence Fontino, CEO and co-founder of WOM. Our solution is an AI-powered daily women's health tracker. On one hand, we help women during the different stages of their life, but we also work and partner with the health industry to provide insight and also a premium version of WOM. WOM collects more than 100 primary parameters, and with our algorithms, we deliver predictions on the fertile windows, the next cycles, and the pregnancies. We also deliver personalized tips and then a powerful community. Our machine learning is unique. On one hand, we use ML to design predictive models. And then lastly, we have a premium SaaS for the health industry, for insurers, and then femcare and consumer health. We are present in 9 countries. And then in terms of monetization, we are 32,000 MRR in Q1. Our core business model is a SaaS for brands targeting female audiences. For example, we launched with Mafre, a global insurer in 2 countries in Latin America, a special version of WOM for them. Please contact with us if you're interested to talk. Thank you.
As you can see, we have some amazing technologies addressing women's health pressing issues. Moving on now to our first panel discussion, where you learn about how to scale your Femtech startup through strategic partnerships. I'd like to welcome our speakers, Bertel Hinsen, Head of Licensing of Women's Health, Radiology and New Spaces at Bayer, Nicole Leeds, Head of Marketing Strategy of the successful Femtech startup Clue, and Catherine Davis, Managing Partner and Head of the Healthcare Practice at Montreal, and who's also an expert in residence for the network Women of Wearables. I will give the floor to Nicolas Leyaud, Chief Innovation Officer at Groupe Mutuel and co-founder of Tech4Eva's initiative, who will moderate the discussion. Nicolas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Charlotte. Hello, good afternoon, everyone in London and elsewhere. Before I forget, at the end, I want to give a big thank you. Thank you to the EPFL Innovation Park. Thank you, Lan. Thank you, the team there. They are making an amazing job. Thank you, Charlotte, and the Swiss embassy in the UK. And of course, thank you to the startups and the community. So today I'm pleased to moderate a very interesting and hopefully very practical panel discussion. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, there was some noise on the line.
No, estoy en una reunión, Sasha, lo siento, no puedo abrir.
Excuse me, can you all mute yourself, please?
We will take 45 minutes to discuss. And the topic, as Charlotte mentioned, is how to scale your Femtech startups, specifically in the UK context, but not only in the UK context. But UK is quite interesting because of the NHS. So most of you know the system, but you don't know the details and how to crack this organization and to collaborate and to crack the market, the UK market at large. So this is what we will discuss today, and I have three prestigious guests with me. So the first one is Catherine Davis. Catherine is a managing partner at Monaco, and she's an expert in residence at our friends Women of Wearables. And what I will ask Catherine is in a few sentences to introduce yourself to complement what I just said now.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. And wow, I absolutely love the presentations we've just heard from the members of the cohort. They're really fantastic. So I've been working in the NHS for more than 10 years. I was on the executive team of one of the regulators in the healthcare system, and I also spent a bit of time helping a large NHS trust in London for a while. And now I work with innovative companies that are keen to partner with the NHS. I think the NHS is amazing. It's doing such fantastic things. And I think there's an opportunity for it to be more innovative, have more innovation. And I absolutely love supporting female founders. I'd like to see a really good gender balance across the health tech ecosystem.
Excellent. So we have plenty of questions for you, Catherine. Then we have Nicole Leeds, who is head of marketing strategy at Clue, which has been acquired by Wink, if I'm not wrong. And she's an advisor at the Femtech lab in London as well. Nicole, do you present yourself in a few words?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, it's quite early here, so please excuse the strange lighting. I'm currently in the US. Thank you so much to the Swiss Embassy for having me. So as Nicolas mentioned, I'm the head of marketing strategy at Clue. Most of you probably know Clue as a period tracker, and because our founder, Ida Tin, is the one who originally coined the term Femtech, we're a truly global company. We have 12 million users worldwide in every country, including the UK, which is one of our largest markets. But what you might not know about us yet is that we recently also became an approved medical device with the FDA approval of Clue Birth Control, which is an all digital contraceptive that will be launching later this year. So we're moving from the consumer space into the medical device space as well. And the UK is one of our highest priority markets. So we're pretty excited to see that change going forward.
Yeah. Excellent. And finally, we have Berthold Insen. Berthold Insen is head of licensing at Bayer. Berthold, you have a few words about you. You're on mute, Berthold.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. It's a little bit coming back because I studied chemistry in Switzerland, did my PhD and postdoc in Cambridge in the UK. So very happy to be here. Yes, I'm head of women's healthcare for women's healthcare at Bayer. 25 years now with the industry, and have pursued many partnerships in the women's healthcare space. One highlight clearly was the acquisition of Candy Therapeutics out of the UK mid of last year. And the asset is now moving into phase 3. And I think it underlines the importance of biotech innovation, the importance of the way the industry in the UK is performing in biotech. Yeah, obviously very happy to be here, and I'm looking for other examples like the Candy Therapeutic example.
Yeah, we'll talk about this. I will have plenty of questions for you. But I will first start my questions to Nicole. And as a startup representative, if we can consider Clue as a startup still, yeah. For us, you're so senior. For most of us, you are an example. Your CEO has been coining the Femtech term. So it's you were a pioneer, and your expansion is an example for everyone. The question I have for you, Nicole, is how long has been clue on the UK market, and why do you do there? You said it was your first market today. Your company was coming from Berlin, if I'm not wrong. So why the UK, and why how did you do it?
Absolutely. So the UK was one of our first markets, but I think one of the advantages of being an all digital product is, of course, we're able to launch in many markets at once. But I think, obviously the UK being an English language market is one of the reasons it's first out of the gate. When you're designing or building a consumer facing product or a product in the medical space, it tends to be the default language. And I think the UK makes a lot of sense as an entry market for that reason. But it also makes sense for a couple of other reasons. This is definitely a market where women are very highly engaged in their healthcare, and there's a very robust sector advocating for women, both within the medical community as well as in the social sector. So we've definitely seen, and I'm sure Catherine will talk more about this, certainly the government's new focus on women's health and the call for women's experiences, which happened within the last 6 months. There's regular news coverage and a very robust press that covers even women's issues that tend to be perhaps less public. I appreciated the startup who called themselves the unsexy STI issue. Press here is very happy to cover unsexy issues. And of course, being a period tracker, we were able to get really great traction in the press around these kinds of issues, which in many markets, you're simply not able to get coverage for. And that engagement in their healthcare.
When did you enter the UK market?
In 2012, when we launched our first iOS app, right from the beginning, we were here. Okay. And in fact, our PR, as you mentioned, we're Berlin based, but our PR firm and a lot of our consultants have regularly been UK based because the services sector here is so robust. It's a really nice bridge between the US and the European markets. So if you're looking to start in a market that will give you a good foothold to expand to either of those markets, it's a really great place to start.
Okay. Can we define because you said your service is digital by definition. So entering a market, it doesn't really mean something in the digital world. Or did you have a team dedicated in the UK for support or local support? What were the first steps in your entering into the UK market?
Well, and I'll distinguish between our two services. The one that we started in 2012 was an all digital non-medical device, right? So we can just enter the app store and all of a sudden you're in any market you want to be in. But and then our second product, Clue Birth Control, is actually not yet approved in the UK. We're going to start in the US and then the UK is up next. And I think the advantage of that, and one of the things I wanted to point out to the startups here, is if you're able to start with a small foothold, for example, something that's not a regulated medical device, but is maybe more of a consumer device or content aimed at users in the United Kingdom, it gives you a chance to really test the market. And what we found is this engagement from users in the market, both in terms of interest, and as I was saying, but also in terms of revenue. The UK is one of our highest grossing countries as well. And we know that because we were able to launch a lower stakes product. And so we know what the willingness to pay for these kinds of services in the UK is. And that gives us really the chance to know the market well in advance. But to your point, Nicola, about did we have a team here? We haven't had a UK focused team. We don't have a team focused on any specific country. We're all global. But what we did have is a press team here because, as I mentioned, this willingness to cover these issues and this interest, which then allowed us to get spill over into other countries as that press was syndicated. So I do think the UK press is a particularly active one in this space. There's a lot of interest, and that's a really great tool for getting your product out to the market.
Okay. And when you entered, I mean, for the beginning, did you target specifically a collaboration with the NHS, or what was or did you go out of the blue?
So we did engage in discussions with the NHS at the beginning. I think for us, because we didn't have this medical device product right at the beginning, and also it was much earlier for us. In 2012, 2013, there wasn't a lot of discussion about Femtech apps or really using, and I would happily throw this to Catherine as well, but there wasn't a lot of discussion about using apps for women's health. That was kind of a novel concept. And so we didn't have that opportunity at the time. It didn't become available until even maybe about 5 years ago. Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong. And so by that time, we were a well enough known name that scaling through the NHS didn't make sense. But it is certainly something we'll pursue with Blue Birth Control once we have approval here in the UK.
Okay, that's cool. You have an agreement with Bayer, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm not sure. Anyway, I will ask you the question later. So yeah, I think you send the ball to Catherine. I think it's quite interesting to understand what could be the difficulties for a startup who's entering the UK market to deal with the NHS. So you just a reminder, you made a company who specialized in helping companies dealing with NHS. So that's a big deal for all the startups who are listening to you today. So what changes did you see, and what are the situation today if a startup from Switzerland or Germany wants to investigate, or more than investigate, but to distribute their solution through the NHS or with the NHS? Where do we start?
Yeah. Great question. Thank you, Nicolas. So, I mean, I think it is worth saying that the NHS is fantastic. It's really enthusiastic about innovation and welcoming of innovation globally. So the stage is set for lots of opportunities. And I've worked with relatively early stage companies through European Commission funded projects. So with startups from Greece, from Ireland, from Finland, from Spain, and have helped them start to make their way in partnership with the NHS. But I think there are a few things to say at the outset. I mean, the first one is, although the NHS is a fantastic brand to have in your portfolio, and it's no doubt very rewarding to be able to help NHS patients, and it sets companies up well for exporting their innovation elsewhere, it can be very, very slow. And sometimes I would advise companies not to start with just a focus on selling to the NHS, because often startups need to get traction fairly rapidly. And that can be difficult when you're trying to partner with the NHS. It will come in time, but you do need to be very patient. And if you're of the mindset that you're in a bit of a panic because you have to generate return on investment for investors in your company, or your own money indeed is running out, and you're relying on sales to the NHS, that can create a very stressful situation for yourself. And it can also put you in the mindset of just really wanting to make the sale as quickly as possible. And really the important thing to do is to take time to understand the NHS, to make authentic connections, and to find your people. Because the NHS, although it's a national health service, it's actually lots of very, very localized decision making. So no one really sells to the NHS as a whole. In fact, people are selling to small parts of the NHS, and then what they tend to do is scale up. Once they've got traction in one small place, they tend to then to try and grow across regions initially, and then further out, so they can get more of a national presence. So the other thing I would say is, if you are thinking about offering a solution to the NHS, is to think not just in terms of the problem that you're solving for patients, citizens, people on the ground, but also have a think about what problems at the system level you can help the NHS solve. So at the moment, NHS staff are very challenged in terms of the bandwidth that they have to contemplate new solutions and new ways of doing things. If you can help them solve a problem that they're already trying to solve, it will be much easier than if you're trying to persuade them to shift their focus into an area where you have a solution. So, for example, Nicole mentioned the consultation on women's health. So that was launched earlier in the summer. The government recognised that we need to do more in relation to women's health, and was keen to hear from stakeholders about the problems that women face, the sorts of solutions that they'd like to see. So the government will be publishing a response to that in the coming months. And I think it will be really a great opportunity for people to keep an eye on that. We can send around the link, but if you kind of Google government consultation on female health, you should find it fairly easily. And when the response comes out, if you're able to reach into the NHS and offer to help them implement something that the government thinks it should be doing, that then can perhaps open a door to have a conversation that can be the start of a relationship building. And I can't stress this enough, building the relationships before you try to move into a sales conversation is really very important.
And do you think so? Do you think it's better to have some UK traction before talking to the NHS?
I think if you have traction somewhere, it's always easier, because although the NHS is very enthusiastic about innovation, it's also very risk averse. So people worry that if they take a risk on technology and it doesn't work the way they're expecting, and it has some disadvantage to people using the technology, that will reflect really badly on them. So people generally find it easier if the NHS is not the very first customer that they've ever had. I think life is quite difficult if the NHS is going to be your first customer. But if your technology has been used somewhere, anywhere in the world, that definitely helps with the conversation with NHS contacts.
And do they put the cursor somewhere between early stage and more growth stage?
I think there are a couple of options. I mean, the way I sort of think about it is there are sort of three routes into the NHS. There's a pilot route where you're just trying to work with an NHS organisation for a short period of time to establish yourself. I wouldn't say proof of concept as such. It's normally a little bit more than that, but that's for quite early stage companies. Then there's a sort of partnership approach where you go to an NHS organisation and say, let's work together to create a solution that will be helpful to a population of people or patients. So it's pilots, partnerships. And then for more established companies, then there is a procurement route where you are submitting tenders to win a contract. That tends to work better, though, if you've gone through one of the other steps first. So to win a procurement cold can be very difficult. And sometimes if you've already built the relationships, you can bid with NHS organisations, and that tends to be a good route. And that would be the route for companies that are scaling up, I would say, rather than the earlier stage ones.
Okay, that's very precious comments that you share here. So at Tech4Eva, we really foster on, this is the philosophy of the program, on the co-development. And do you think it's better or it's not better, but it's a good idea to collaborate with different startups, which is quite difficult, to go to the NHS, or which is more easy is to collaborate with a corporate or larger company and together to push the solution, or is it not really necessary?
I've seen both things work quite well, actually. I think it depends what it is. So if there's a medical, a sort of pharma component to the offer, it can work well to work with a corporate. But for example, recently I was working with a Greek company that had an app that helps patients who have had bariatric surgery to develop healthy habits after their surgery. And she was interested in working with bariatric surgeons so they could compare the ability of patients to develop healthy habits after their surgery using her app compared to people not using the app and just trying to find their own way. So that bariatric surgeon was really, really passionate about getting the right outcomes and getting lasting change for those patients. And he was also connected into one of the universities, and they had a group of researchers that were also interested in bariatric surgery. So those people were able to come together and develop a plan for working in partnership to test the efficacy of the app and then build from there. So that was an example of someone doing it without a corporate partner. But another examples I've seen people working successfully with corporate partners, and that being a really good way to get started.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. I'm turning the camera to you, Bertold. Do you have the experience of the NHS yourself, or is it too far away from your daily activities?
So the experience goes back to my postdoc, which I mentioned before, that these activities were funded actually by the NHS in chemistry. But with respect to the projects and partnerships we are pursuing, normally venture capital is providing the money, or we are actually doing it. And so when companies approaching me, I basically link them to the various functions within our organization. And then as a market leader, we are fully integrated. So we have research, development, commercial, pricing, all of these functions are there. So we bring these people together and then we try to basically shape the projects. And that can take actually a few years, as it was happening in the case of Candy, or it can be very quick. Yeah. But if there is a future development, then we tend obviously to support it also financially very heavily.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Candy Therapeutics story, because you were strongly involved in this story? We know at Tech4Eva, we heard Novartis, we heard Merck, but this is the first time we hear about Bayer. So I'm super happy to discover the way you collaborate, what you have done in the UK with Candy, but more generally, the way you work at Bayer with smaller entities.
Okay. Yeah, so we are the market leader in women's healthcare. I think we are doing something like 3 billion in sales worldwide. We are active in this space since 50, 60 years in contraception and in many other areas. And so we are interacting daily with entrepreneurs, academics, or biotechs who have interesting ideas in the women's healthcare space. And so they approach us and we bring them together with the experts. And that happened around 2012, 2013, also with the colleagues from Candy. Candy is a small molecule, NK1/3 antagonist for treatment of vasomotor symptoms. And this is a symptom of menopause. And I think very interesting is that women sometimes tend to treat their symptoms as something normal, something physiological. It's something which is part of my life, which is not always the case in the extreme versions of symptoms. Yeah. So, for example, heavy sweating is clearly not normal for menopause management. And the colleagues at Candy were very smart in identifying that disease and that mode of action addressing that disease. And then they brought the compound through phase 1, through phase 2, and we were in constant discussions, basically. So I was basically able to help in the sense of this is important to prove for an asset so that it becomes interesting for big pharma like Bayer, but especially obviously also for the regulatory authorities and for the pricing authorities. Yeah. So what does one need to show with an innovative approach that it in the end makes it really to the marketplace? And I think there we can contribute a lot. And as we then knew the assets and the people very well, I think the final execution of the acquisition was very straightforward. So this is one example how we work, but there are many other examples where we interact with biotech industries or biotech companies in the area of contraception, menopause, endometriosis. A lot of devices are very much of relevance here. We are interacting with Femtech companies in the stricter definition, digital companies, and so basically, we are covering the entire spectrum of women's health, and women's health here means diseases which mostly affect women, but we don't want to narrow it down just to the uterus, for example. It's also osteoporosis, it's migraine, all of these diseases which are in the majority affecting women. And there we are doing a lot, and I was very much interested in what I heard in the very beginning about preeclampsia. Yeah, so also pregnancy diseases. There's a huge medical need, but nobody's really talking about these things. It's now starting up that people are getting educated, that women are voicing their issues, that mostly male venture capitalists are starting to listen to that one. So in that sense, there's a lot of movement right now, and this is very nice, and we are very happy about that one. And we are also highly acknowledging now that this innovation is basically growing, and we obviously would be happy to close deals in that space.
Yeah, and I think as Nicole mentioned, I think the UK press is pushing on this topic without too much limitations, which is great. Let me ask the question to Nicole, because Nicole had a relationship with Bayer. So you collaborate with Bayer, if not wrong, but if it's Bayer in the US, or what is the situation between Clue and Bayer?
Well, Bayer and Clue are both such global companies that I think to say whether it was in any one market is too complicated. But a lot of the work that we did, as Bertold was saying, or as you were referencing as well, a lot of the advancement of Femtech has come from this increased awareness. And that's what actually Bayer and Clue were working on together, was I think as we've seen more and more discussion about women's health issues, especially, some controversial topics like hormones. What Bayer was very interested in was making sure that women really understood a lot more of the complexity of hormones, how they affect the body, as women are making a more active role in their health decisions, that they're educated about that they're receiving accurate information about hormones and their options, especially around contraception. And so that's what we partnered with Bayer on, both in terms of making more scientifically accurate information available on the web, as well as through podcasting to reach a new generation of women who are often receiving, who feel very empowered around their health, but aren't often receiving fully accurate information, either because they don't receive the education in school or because they're getting a lot of information off the internet, and then they don't necessarily have the time with their healthcare provider to get really in-depth education. So of course, Clue, we have a very direct relationship with millions of users all over the world. Bayer, also being a truly global company, they have users of their products all over the world. So we worked really around patient education and helping to prepare the market for products like hormonal birth control, like HRT therapy, and helping women to be able to access really accurate information, both through Clue's app, through their podcast, and through the website as well.
We'll just make a quick comment to everyone, to the audience. If you have questions, please drop the questions in the discussion. Then I will ask the question at the end of the session. So, okay, a question for you, Nicole. How did you start the conversation with Bayer? What was the grip? How did you met with them or get their interest? Or
to be honest, Bayer approached us. I mean, I think as Bertold was saying, they're very active in this space. They have their own incubator as well. And I think this is an example of where location does matter, because we were located in Berlin, as where Bayer also obviously has a massive presence. They found us and they were interested in the work that we were doing in English language markets. So I think, being in, I know many of your startups are French, German, Swiss, and some British. Being in Europe is a huge advantage because a lot of the healthcare companies are based out of these markets. We've had conversations with Roche, who approached us. They're based out of Switzerland. We recently signed a partnership with L'Oreal, who of course is French, and they as well came to us because we were a European startup in their backyard. And it makes things easier because we know how to deal with GDPR. We know how to deal with a lot of the regulations that are specific to Europe. So being within the European community, and I include the UK in that, even though I know that's controversial, but being in the as I said, in that bridge of understanding Europe, also understanding the US is a massive advantage when you want to work with global companies. Even those who are headquartered in Europe, you've got that extra co-location advantage. Because I don't think our partnership with Bayer would have gotten off the ground had I not been able to go to the Bayer offices, sit with them, talk with them, in some ways overcome, I think, the sometimes different languages that startups and corporates are speaking when we talk about partnership. And I think it took a lot of relationship building, which Catherine mentioned earlier. When you're working with large organizations, startups have very particular needs. We tend to want to move fast. We don't always have the funding runway to be able to outweigh a corporate as they get the wheels or the NHS as they get the wheels turning. And I think Bayer, where we've gotten really successful partnerships off the ground, is where we've been able to develop quick, easy, let's get this started, let's have our first partnership and try it out, get the relationship going, that's really been the easiest way into these partnerships for us.
Okay, Bertolt, do you? I guess you still have this accelerator. Is it specifically for the Femtech, or is it more open, some more generic on health in general?
No, it's absolutely generic, and people can talk to us. I mean, my door is extremely wide open. So please use my email address to approach us, and I will then channel this information to the respective groups. And Nicole, you are very right with these complementarity. We are bringing things to the table. Biotech brings things to the table. VCs are bringing things to the table. And I think the art, and therefore it's so nice to now speak about that one. The art is bringing these various components together. Yeah, I think we cannot do certain things. Others can do it better, but we obviously also have certain capabilities which can help to move things forward. Yeah, and I think if we find that sweet spot where the various components are coming together, this is for me basically the art of business development and licensing, yeah, to really understand and connect. Yeah, and so this relationship thing is extremely important, understanding where the needs are, and then also sometimes translating the need of the market into something which is then digestible by an academic, for example. Yeah, so this is very important, and therefore the door is wide open. Guys, reach out to us, talk to us, and you will get feedback from a very strong expert group, basically crossing the entire spectrum.
Okay, interesting. Catherine, talking about the NHS and talking about accelerators or accelerations or whatever program, is there some specific, you mentioned the call for innovation and the call to the market, but is there some initiative like accelerators that we can find in corporates existing within the NHS? What is the situation?
Yes, there are quite a few actually. So Digital Health London runs an accelerator. There's the NHS Innovation Accelerator, I think it's called. So there are lots. So definitely look those up. But I think it's important to, before reaching out to those ones, just to think about what you want as an innovator and where you fit into the NHS as a system, because there's lots of opportunities, but you could spend a lot of your precious time going down the wrong track if you're not careful. So I do think it's worth thinking about who you're trying to sell to. Does your innovation fit into a hospital? Are you helping hospital doctors, hospital nurses do things more effectively? Are you helping people stay out of hospital, either by managing their care or having access to clever remote solutions? So if you're thinking about hospitals as a sort of as a potential partner, then that can direct you in a particular way. So we have academic health science networks all around the country, and their job is to sort of be a bridge between innovation academia and the NHS. They can be good at telling people in their area about your innovation and getting their interest, but the more targeted you can be with a solution that's helping a system level problem, the more effective that's likely to be. If your innovation is something that GPs would use or recommend or connect people with, then you just might need to think about that a bit differently. So it would take you a very long time to scale up GP practice by GP practice. So you'd want to be thinking about connecting with GPs that are influential people within the community of primary care in a particular region. So we're now regionalising, providing and commissioning in the NHS. So in primary care, we're starting to see primary care networks, so groups of GP practices coming together. But overall, the system is very overheated at the moment. It's partly because of COVID, but it was actually starting before COVID anyway, with a sort of inexorable increase in demand. But things that you can do to help people get through the system more efficiently, manage their care themselves effectively, treat themselves if it's not appropriate for them to be in the system, and support the system to work efficiently and effectively. All of those sorts of areas are ones that people are keen to hear from at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Definitely you're a precious source of information about all the NHS system.
I was taking notes.
It's amazing. What I wanted to mention is that the three of you have agreed to accept a direct contact from the Tech4Eva community. Mm-hmm. So thank you. I want to thank you about this. It's really it's very nice of you. So I'm talking to the audience. If you want to reach Nicole, Catherine, or Berthold, you can reach out to Simon or myself, or you can reach out directly. But if you need their email address or their contacts, reach out to us, and we will share their contacts, so you can ask more questions, because there is so much a conversation that we won't be able to have today, that we will let you ask the right questions. But I will select a few questions from the chat. And the first question from the audience, the question is from Jérôme Aubert, who's a Femtech entrepreneur based in the Basel regions, but based in France, if I'm not wrong. He's not part of Tech4Eva, but he's part of the welcome community of Femtech startups. And the question is to Berthold, a challenging and controversial question. Do you think hormonal contraception is dead?
No, I don't think so. And Nicole actually mentioned that one. Yeah. So I think what women want today is basically options, choice. Yeah. And in various phases of their lives, and their partnerships also, various methods are the optimal ones. Yeah, and I think we as an industry should provide safe and reliable options for people, and they have to have the choice. And so there are obviously hormonal methods, there are non-hormonal methods, there are digital methods, there are barrier methods. All of that, I think, or we believe, have their place. Yeah, and I think it's very important, however, to educate, and there we are back with Nicole's point, to educate people about the various profiles of these methods. Yeah, and obviously an IUS is a very efficacious, very safe method. Yeah, we know it works, and a barrier method is not as safe as that one or as efficacious as that one. Yeah, and that needs to be understood. And so the various profiles need to be educated about. And in that sense, no, it's not that, as long as we properly educate people and offer choices to people.
Okay, thank you. I will, because of time, I will just take only one next question. This question is for the three of you, and if you can make it short answer, it's amazing. So I don't have the person who wrote this question. As a VC investor in medtech, what should we be aware of in order to partner with and support the tech startup more effectively? What would be your recommendation to a VC investor?
I can start, since I come from the startup side. I think that the network of experts that you're able to connect your startups to is one of the biggest assets that you can possibly offer. You know, especially startups who are medical devices or who are working in regulated spaces, or even those who aren't, who are just working in the women's health market generally. It has very specific challenges that don't exist in other markets, and it takes real expertise to develop them. And so I think the more that you can offer support to femtech startups that is tailored and relevant to them, the better you'll be able to support your startups at growth. And that's things like women specific branding, growing a medical device in any given market. Like, we can all see how invaluable resources like Catherine are. I think that ability to connect to experts who really understand your unique needs is the best thing that an investor can offer.
Okay, excellent. Berthold, maybe not as a VC, but as a CVC or a corporate investment fund, what would be your recommendations? What do you need from to be aware to partner with a startup, or what is the?
Yeah, I think the key point is be aware of the very significant unmet medical need. And there is a medical need, and there is a big commercial potential. Yeah, and sometimes people tend to ignore it, although we are talking about 50% of the world population here. but it's not yet so developed. Yeah, and I think as in the pharma industry, development timelines are rather long. One would have the time to develop that market during the development of the asset. And then I think the opportunity is quite significant. A lot of people are dying because of preeclampsia. Yeah, preterm birth is giving or is forced by preeclampsia. So huge medical need. So if we have something there, go for it.
Okay, good. And Catherine, I will turn the question slightly differently than the original question. Is in the NHS context, what is the role of investors, and what role could they play if they don't play it today to make the startup to be more efficient to work with NHS? Or any comment on that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we see quite a lot is that investors don't want too much to do with companies that have a plan to partner with the NHS because it takes so long. And I really think that's a shame. I totally understand it. It can take a year to get a commercial arrangement up and running with the NHS, which I understand is a very long time. So I know that companies that want to partner with the NHS can make investors nervous, but I would encourage investors to see the value in patient capital and combining an NHS strategy with some other strategies and not to reject innovators just because they want to work with the NHS, because it really is worthwhile. And I think there are lots of positive opportunities there. They sometimes just take a little bit longer to come through.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, the three of you. We learned so much. It's really amazing. As I said, we're just starting a conversation. If the audience wants to reach out to you, they can do it directly, or they can contact us and we'll share the details for further details. Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. 45 minutes is too short.
I agree.
Thank you, all of you, for your great insights.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Now we know more how the NHS, pharmaceutical companies and startups collaborate together within the Femtech sector. It's time again to hear from the 7 other startups who are part of the 2021 Tech4Eva cohort.
I'm Gora Conley, and I'm the co-founder of Untitled Technologies. To make it simple, our mission is to help people in making babies. Turns out that the old-fashioned way doesn't always work out, and this is a growing problem. Already 1 in 10 couples have to turn to alternatives like in vitro fertilization. And a crucial aspect in getting that success the first time lies in the doctor's ability to choose the right embryo for transfer. And that's where we come in. We're developing a device that will enable doctors to choose the right embryo as soon as possible. The device can detect the metabolic fingerprint of individual embryos without even touching them. All the doctor has to do is place multiple embryos from the same patient inside this device, connect it to a machine for analysis, and get back a simple result, which is the embryos scored for viability. In April last year, we closed our seed financing round, 1 million francs. More recently, we were awarded an EU grant for nearly double of our seed round. If you want to know more and might be interested in joining us for the next round, please get in touch with me. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Andrea Bornos with Aspievix, a medical device company in women's health with a vision to make gynecology now modern. Our first product is a solution to a real problem in gynecology, the tenaculum. It affects more than 80 million women every year in common office-based procedures. It was invented over a century ago and is very effective because the hooks at the end pierce the cervix in order to stabilize it, causing significant pain and significant bleeding. Our new device, Mitkervix, is a next generation cervical device that uses suction technology to secure the cervix without compromising on performance. Our current clinical trial in 2 university centers in Switzerland are showing very robust results, and here you can see how the device gently attaches to the cervix without causing pain or bleeding. We are currently fundraising Series A, 5 million Swiss francs, to fund our commercial launch in the US and in Europe. Thank you very much. Please come talk to us if you would like to know more.
My name is Lisa, and we brought a team together and developed Preglife. Breathe Idle works if a woman needs to breathe 60 seconds into the device per day, and then the data is transferred via Bluetooth to the Breathe Idle app. She gets her fertility status and her cycle phase displayed in the app. On the one side, you can buy Breathe Idle once, or we have also the renting model, which has recurring revenues. The woman can do so via our own online shop or also via professionals in Austria. We work here with all pharmacies. Additionally, we're also working with insurance groups. So we have several thousand users within the German-speaking area, and we have a 5 times revenue growth over the last year. We are also working on other applications, for example, in the COPD monitoring, as well as you want to go into the sports diagnostics for women in a later stage. So if you are interested, please reach out to me or the team, and thank you for your attention.
My name is Elizabeth Gazda. I'm the CEO of Ember Labs. By 2025, there will be 1.1 billion women in menopause. They will suffer from hot flashes, insomnia, anxiety, and brain fog. Today, women are spending about $2,000 a year out of pocket for partial solutions. What we've done is discovered a new pathway to the brain using temperature as a messenger to balance the autonomic nervous system. We apply thermal energy to the inside of the wrist that triggers the brain to balance the autonomic nervous system and dampen down menopausal symptoms without any medicine or side effects. We partnered with Johnson & Johnson to prove out the efficacy of the device. In all cases, we were able to move these clinical measures in ways that drugs to this point have only addressed. By the end of 2022, we will be able to predict an hot flash before it starts and kick the device into operation. We are also on our way to have a signed partnership with a major global CPG brand. And to date, we've sold over 77,000 units. Thank you.
Hello, this is Katharina from PhysiMed. More than 1 out of 10 women worldwide suffer from urinary leaks, most of them being younger than the age of 55. The pelvic floor maintains like a hammock the genital organs. It is important for women to train their pelvic floor all over their life to improve bladder control and to stop and prevent incontinence or organ descending. EMI provides a suitable solution to strengthen the pelvic floor at home. It consists of an intravaginal device connected to a smart mobile application. Kegel exercises are all based on therapeutic training schemes, an innovative biofeedback technology that was developed and patented by PhysiMed. The device is classified as a medical device class 1 and meets highest medical quality standards. We sell EMI in all countries within Europe, in different countries in Asia, and also in North America. Please reach out to me or with our CEO, Emmeline Hahn, via LinkedIn. Looking forward to meet you.
My name is Hila Shaviv. I'm the founder, the inventor, and CEO of Gals Bio. And I will present to you Tulipon, which is basically a vaginal platform for women's health and wellness. The Tulipon is basically used like a regular tampon. It's disposable, but it is made from biodegradable material. And it also not absorbing the menses, it actually collects it. And our goal is to use the menstrual effluent as a base for biomarkers to various women medical state to monitor and screen their health. And here you can see women are really happy with the functionality of this device. And thank you.
Vaginitis is the most common gynecologic problem encountered by primary care providers for women. However, it is misdiagnosed in 50% of first clinic visits. GynTools provides Genie, the first and only accurate, rapid, and cost-effective point-of-care diagnostic system that is based on machine learning and AI. Genie is addressing a multi-billion blue ocean market. We already started marketing activities in Israel and Switzerland. We are seeking an investment partner in our A round. My name is Nimrod Lev, co-founder and CEO, and I'll be happy to set a Zoom call and elaborate. Thank you.
If you are interested in getting in touch with some of the cohort companies, you can fill in the form by scanning the QR code, which is on your screen. We'll now move to the last session of today's event, where you will hear from one investor and one successful startup who know each other very well, as Silicon Valley Bank invested some years ago into the startup Atlantic Therapeutics. Sophie, I think you're there. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, and thank you very much for the Tech4Eva team for enabling us to join this exciting session today. My name's Sophie Erlich. I'm a health tech banker at Silicon Valley Bank. I'm based in London, and I get to work with some really, really exciting companies and also with lots of investors who are investing in the health tech and the femtech space. I'm really excited that today I'm joined by Susan Trent from Atlantic Therapeutics. And Susan, it would be great if you could introduce yourself and the company and what you're building at Atlantic Therapeutics.
Hi, Sophie, and hi, everybody on the call. Great to be joining you here. Just give you a little personal snippet. I'm back to traveling after, as we know, a year and a half off the road and doing everything by Zoom calls. So that comes with its own joy, but it also comes with its own stresses. So I literally got into the hotel room in Dublin about 2 minutes ago, just in time for this call. So let's not forget that although it's great to meet face to face, there's something very, very efficient about being able to meet over Zoom like this too. So great to meet you all. As Sophie said, I am the Chief Executive of Atlantic Therapeutics. I'm here in Ireland as we speak. Our headquarters is in Galway, Ireland. I'm actually based in Boston. And by way of brief background, my long career, if you like, was with GlaxoSmithKline. So I came very much from a healthcare background, moved into consumer healthcare, and really always enjoyed bringing very, very strong science and brands that were supported by strong science into the consumer space and married them with a compelling consumer proposition. And that's a little bit of the experience that I want to share with you today. So I'll be happy to do that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Susan. I think it's going to be really interesting for the audience here today to hear more about your experience and also the company's journey, fundraising, given that Atlantic Therapeutics have been growing the business for a little while longer than some of the early stage companies that we're seeing today. I think it'll be really interesting to just give the audience an overview of the investments that are taking place in the health tech space and also in the femtech space too. So Charlotte, if we could move to the next slide. And the next one. Thank you. So at Silicon Valley Bank, because we work with many different healthcare companies and also with many investors, we actually have quite a unique data set of information showing companies and how much they've been raising over the past few years. We publish reports usually annually, and this is our last mid-year report, which was published just a couple of months ago, showing the data of the VC dollars that healthcare companies have raised until the first half of this year of 2021. Now, as you can see on this graph, this shows all different healthcare subsectors that we focus on at the bank. So from biopharma to devices, diagnostics and tools, and also health tech, which is highlighted in blue. What's really interesting here, as you can see, especially in health tech, that the amount of money that's being invested, VC dollars, into health tech businesses is really on an increase. And we all know, given COVID, that healthcare is really front of mind for everyone today. So investors that didn't typically in the past invest in healthcare businesses are today investing heavily into healthcare for the first time, and especially into health tech, given that it's more of a tech, alliance to what many tech investors have experience investing into. Now, femtech is, of course, part of health tech, but there are women's health companies that are part of other healthcare sectors too. Now, something here that surprised me when looking at this data is that although a lot of money has been going into healthcare, companies over the last, couple of years, and especially the last 18 months. In Femtech, until the third quarter of this year, it was almost flat. So money has been going into Femtech businesses, and companies have been raising larger rounds, and there's certainly a tremendous amount of interest. But until June of this year, year on year from 2019, this was around the same amount, around 3%, 4% of the money raised by health tech companies was actually raised in the Femtech space. And it actually surprised me because this was lower than what I expected when looking at the numbers. But I think in Q3 of this year, since, June, July, August this year, we've seen a number of very large deals that we've never seen before in this space. And this is really, really exciting. So especially in companies that are coming out of New York, we've been seeing rounds that are around under or over $100 million rounds. And I'm really, really excited to see how this continues and what happens towards the end of this year, because I think that this is a pivotal moment in Femtech and that there is a tremendous amount of interest currently in this space. And Susan, given that you're currently fundraising as well, and I'd love to hear more about your fundraising journey today, it'll be interesting to understand how you've seen an uptick in interest, in investor interest in the Femtech space. Is this different from what you were seeing a couple of years ago?
Je me connecter, m'intéresse la. Ouais.
Can you please all mute yourself? Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted there as well. No, thanks, Sophie. So just to tell you, first of all, before we get to our current fundraising round at the moment, I'll give you a little brief history of the fundraising in the company so far, and what I think have been the real important triggers to fundraising. As a CEO, and there may be a number of other CEOs of startups on the call as well, you just have to accept that fundraising is a fairly constant activity and something that's going to take up time and attention. So I think you always have to be, if you like, in fundraising mode mentally as well. I joined the company in November of 2019. The company had been running really since about 2017. And the first round of funding that was received, the Series A funding, came in really, if you like, on the promise of what the company could deliver. So it's always the first stage. Investors, I think, will come in when they see this potential. And obviously the most important characteristics are, do you have something very unique that addresses a really unmet need in a very large population? So I think you've just got to think very carefully about how well you can articulate these proof points to show that. Now, the previous leadership of the team did a very good job of that. Our business, Atlantic Therapeutics, our key brand is called Innovo. And what Innovo is a very unique, it's a non-invasive device, a medical device, and it's for the treatment of stress urinary incontinence. And if you look at that particular market and you think about the scale of requirement for real solutions in that market, it's about 1 in 3 women suffer from some form of bladder leaks. It is a huge unmet need. The real competition, if you like, in this particular category are the companies that are selling pads and liners for women to manage the symptoms, basically to use pads to protect themselves against bladder leaks. And that's like a $9 billion category. We know we've got a huge amount to go after. And the most important thing, of course, when the Series A happened was we had some proven and really unique technology that had come out of University College Dublin, invented alongside a physical therapist who had real reputation and credibility in her ability to find the right solutions for women. So that was step one, of course, back in 2017. Step two was really about market expansion. So the brand got going in some European markets, started to look at some business models and had some momentum. And the next stage really was to bite off the huge opportunity in the US market. So the next round, if you like, of fundraising, the Series B round, was really the brand was commercialized, but it was about pre-commercialization in the US. And that went to funding clinical trials, product development, and FDA submission that would allow for the commercial opportunity. So again, a really clear focus and a very clear strategy as to what the investment was going to eventually deliver. So as part of that Series B round, I came in November of 2019 to launch the brand in the US. And of course, once you're into commercializing, suddenly there is if you like, a P&L for investors to look at. And I think that is a whole different scale, a whole different point of view. When you're fundraising on the potential and the promise, it's one thing, and the way you really engage with investors to show them the potential is one thing. It's quite a different thing when you are really literally looking at monthly results and managing a P&L, and there's an awful lot more real data to look at. So I think that's the secret of the next round of fundraising, the Series C, which is you're now running a business and you now really have to deliver what you commit to. So as I came in and took over as CEO in July 2020, I lose track of the years given the COVID situation. For me, the most important thing I could do was to focus the organization on what we'd committed to deliver and make sure that we delivered it. And I'm absolutely delighted to tell you that we are delivering for our investors. I have a board meeting tomorrow, in fact, when I'm going to be sharing the incredibly good news that we are exactly on the plan that we said that we would deliver, which represents a 134% growth over our prior year. So delivering those commercial proof points is, if you like, the real important step in raising a Series C round. So we are right in the middle of raising that round. We have fantastic support from our inside investors and building support from new investors who want to come in because they continue to see the promise, but the promise actually being delivered. So I'd say that's been our journey in those phases.
It is quite a journey, and I think it's really insightful to understand kind of your journey, given that, the company started, I think, before, Femtech has really been, and health tech has really been in the spotlight, in the past few months. I think given, the investors that you have around the table, you have some very leading European healthcare investors supporting the business. It'll be really helpful to understand, some investors are very hands-on, some investors are more hands-off. It'll be really good to as a CEO, to understand from you, how often do you interact with the investors?
Absolutely right. And that is a very relevant topic, as I have a board meeting with them tomorrow. So yes, as Sophie says, we have a number of other investors, but I'd say our core 5 lead investors are all European medtech VCs, and many of you will recognize the names of some of them. There is Early Bird in Germany, Saroba in Ireland, Atlantic Bridge also in Ireland, LSP in the Netherlands, and Andera in Paris. So as you can tell, very, very European flavor. I think one thing that's been really interesting as well is how our core investors have really come on the journey with us. And we'll talk, I think, a little bit later in this session about the strategic shift that we've made from, if you like, a classic medical device in the healthcare channels to a consumer-facing product. And I think that's really important as well, that the people you have around the table as investors have that ability to come on the strategic journey with you, shift to where the market really is. But of course, as the CEO, it's your responsibility to be able to explain that strategy and the choices that you're making very, very clearly. So we're in a pattern with our investors where we do have a monthly board meeting. We get around the table together. The most important thing obviously has been that they increasingly build confidence in the leadership team. And the only way to do that really is to deliver the results and be very, very clear about your strategy and focus and do what you've committed to doing, essentially. But I think that the monthly formal board meeting is a good discipline, like any business that's in real commercial phase. There's a real business to look at and assess and report on. So I think that's quite important to have that. But obviously, most important thing is the people around the table are the right people to be helping, advising, providing context, providing a network. That's one of the most important things I would say our investors bring us. They've got a fantastic network. They're seen as very credible in the medtech VC space. So without a doubt, they open doors for us amongst the investment community. That's another very important interaction that we have with them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really, really interesting. And I guess, it's really great when you have, a group of investors that are strongly supporting you and the business and the team going forwards, which is, fantastic. And I think it's what every founder and entrepreneur and company really, really wishes for. In terms of, you mentioned before, I guess, the shift from being a medical device, medtech business to focusing more on the consumer side, both from, the investors, these are healthcare, traditional healthcare investors, and also with the shift now with, I guess, what we're seeing at the bank and in the sector is that COVID's just highlighted what we all knew, which is that healthcare organizations can't keep up with the demand in order to, provide healthcare services for everyone. And I think that, more and more people are realizing that they have to really look after their own health and the health of their families and communities and take that responsibility into their own hands. And I guess, going from, focusing on the healthcare and the medical device angle to more a consumer angle, I guess aligns with this shift in behavior that we're seeing. It'd be great to understand from you how you're transitioning to this direct-to-consumer model.
No, absolutely. The acceleration of a consumer or a patient's desire to receive their healthcare at the point of need, no question, COVID just accelerated that enormously. So I think it really depends. And I think what you have to look at very carefully is the consumer base, the patient population that you're going after, and the appropriateness of where you deliver that solution to them. So in our case, without a doubt, it's really important that we continue to deliver a very credible, very scientifically underpinned medical device. So I think that's the first important point to say. And I guess I came at that because of my background at GlaxoSmithKline. I'd been very comfortable with bringing medical products out from the realms of the doctor's office into the realms of the consumer when I knew it was addressing a condition that was very self-diagnosable and very self-treatable. So that's the first question to ask, is this something that a patient, someone who's suffering from a condition, can really identify and self-diagnose? For instance, in our case, it's very easy to help women understand, and I'll get quite basic about it. If you pee when you laugh or you sneeze or you cough, you have stress urinary incontinence. If you have any other issues around incontinence or issues, then of course you should be seeing a healthcare professional. So there is a level of responsibility that we have to take to make sure that we are really, really clear and providing that education. And we do that by, if you like, bringing the healthcare professional voice out from the doctor's office into the consumer realm. So always, as we always refer to it, this is a consumer preferred healthcare professional recommended brand. And those two things have to stay in balance. So I think it's really important to say that first of all. And then just in terms of the journey, once you know and have identified that this is the place that your consumers want to access their healthcare, then, of course, what you're trying to do is make sure that you're providing the right education about the condition that they're suffering from and from what the solution is that you can offer just to the right media. And that's kind of, if you like, the fun part of it. That's my job, is to bring all this fantastic promise that we have with our brand to the consumer. So we're doing that, as you can imagine, because we're an e-commerce brand. We're available via our own e-commerce website. We are very strong in digital. We're making sure that we're in conversations and building relationships with our consumers from as they're discovering the brand all the way through to they're at home and using the brand. So that's another important aspect for me. This isn't something that, as a consumer brand, we want to put into a pharmacy shelf and let a consumer make all the decisions and try to gather all the information by herself. Building relationships is really, really important with our consumers. So thinking about the whole ecosystem that surrounds that consumer, from discovery through to use and eventual successful outcome, really, really important for us as well. What it means, of course, is that our investment is much more in a variable marketing spend than it is in terms of building up an infrastructure. So whereas a traditional healthcare professional facing medical device or treatment you would be building up infrastructure in terms of a sales force, etc. This allows us to have much more flexibility in our business model, because we've got a variable marketing spend, and we will spend that money as it's required to deliver the targets that we're going after. And I think that also helps from an investor point of view, because it de-risks that plan somewhat as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really interesting. And I guess, urinary incontinence a few years back, was something that was very hush-hush. People didn't really talk about it. It's a taboo topic, as, mental health was, as, many women's health and men's health issues were. And I guess today it seems that people, these taboos are really diminishing. People are much more open, much more comfortable talking about these, what was embarrassing kind of medical conditions. Are you seeing that change in your field as well?
It's an interesting one, and actually, anecdotally, amongst my friends, my peer group, my family, etc., I think it's fantastic to see how women have started to break down some of these stigmas and taboos in many areas of healthcare and in situations that women find themselves in. So, we talk far more about the menopause. We'll talk far more about sexual health. We'll talk far more about period topics that were really kind of hush-hush over a number of years. The unfortunate truth is urinary incontinence remains one of those taboos. And the World Health Organization actually calls it the last female taboo. So there's still an awful lot of work to be done in terms of breaking down that taboo. And I think the part we play in that is when women find there is a viable solution, they're far more prepared to talk about the condition when they've solved it than when they are still suffering from it. So to me, that's the role that we can play. I would also say, and I'm sure a number of the people on this call are either running small startup businesses or investing in small startup businesses. We have to leverage what's happening in the environment, and we have to leverage the trends that we're seeing. And it's really fun to be a disruptor brand in a large category. So, I benefit enormously from the fact that the likes of P&G, for instance, the brands Tenor, Poise, etc., are beginning to normalize bladder leaks. The way they're talking about it, of course, is, two women, a lot of people suffer from this condition. You're not alone, but they're not providing a solution, of course. They're providing ongoing management of the symptoms. So our opportunity, of course, is to interrupt that conversation to say, we agree, it is normal. Many, many women suffer from this condition, but actually what we can offer is a solution. So that makes our ability to be disruptive in the category so much more important. And then from an investor point of view, I would say, again, we're very, very fortunate that we have 3 women as investors on our board. It really helps. And whether we like to have to admit that or not, the fact that this is an issue that largely affects women, although it does affect men as well, the fact that we have women around the table talking about it just helps in terms of the intuitive understanding of the issue that we're talking about. And it is obviously destigmatizing the conversation amongst our board and amongst investors. And there is a growing trend, of course, of women investing in women's health topics. And the more that happens, the better that will be. So I would encourage and continue to encourage more and more women to really be champions for investment in this femtech space.
And, as a female CEO, I guess, female-led business. So it's coincides with that. But it's interesting. Do you think that, for women's health, it's a must to have at least, one female investor to support the business, to understand, it on a more, in-depth perspective?
I wouldn't say it's a must, but I would say it's certainly something that I really applaud. And I, like going out and talking to new investors, then I do know the women in the environment who I know will be real champions, and that does make a difference. I will say, and it's a hint to maybe some of the men on this call or men generally. It can be quite demoralizing when you are so passionate about the mission, and you really want that person that you're across the table from to understand it. And often they'll say, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll tell my wife about it." So we've got to be really careful and thoughtful about how we approach these topics. It's a health topic, and the fact that it's a female health topic shouldn't kind of mean that people don't think it's relevant to them. It's as relevant to men as it is to women from an investment point of view.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And as a banker, I work with, femtech businesses and also with men's health businesses too. And feel that at the end of the day, they're solving very, very important problems for key parts of the population and very, very big target markets of unaddressed medical issues. So it's really interesting to hear your thoughts on that. I think just finally, before opening up for any questions from the audience, if, with the audience today, some of the founders here are, I guess, starting the journey or the beginning of their journey with fundraising or with building a company, what kind of tips or lessons learned would you suggest to some of the companies in this audience?
No, absolutely. A couple for me. The first one, and the one that has really been the step change in our business, is focus. And I think there's a tendency to want to promise to do everything. And actually, my experience is I came in and I stopped an awful lot more things than I started. Because I think that clear strategic focus is really what investors are looking for. Do one thing and do it really, really well. And there is a temptation to say, and we can do this, and we can do this, and then we can do this. So be, strategically really smart about the areas of focus. I think that's a really important message. I'd say the other one is overinvest in talent. Just really, really inspire people by your mission and bring the best people you can. You'd be surprised how much people are incentivized by a mission to do good and to have the opportunity to grow a business from the ground up. And we've been able to recruit some phenomenal talent into the business on the promise. And they could have gone to other larger organizations. They probably could have got paid a lot more. But that to me is really important. Focus on talent is just making such a huge difference to us. And as I said earlier, deliver what you promise. That is the real tipping point in terms of building the confidence, which again means don't try and do everything. Don't overpromise. I think VC investors are very savvy. And actually, some of our investors have said to us, we see business plans where we discounted by 50% because, we've had experience here. We know what businesses at this scale can deliver. So, don't be afraid to be realistic. And I'd say finally as well, and the thing I would say I've enjoyed the most coming out of a big corporation like GSK, which was really quite internally focused to this startup environment, is just absolutely leverage the network. It's incredibly generous, this network of medtech VCs, this environment. People will offer contacts. Those contacts can lead to a really, really interesting conversation. And I just think it's that. So, Sophie and I, for instance, talk regularly. Sophie is, always saying to me, talk to so-and-so, think about this. And building that external network is a really, really important part of how you succeed in this environment. So they'd be my key tips.
Those are super helpful. And I think looking at the first one, as excited as every founder is, and I love to meet with excited entrepreneurs, I think taking that excitement and channeling it and focusing it is a really, really helpful tip. So to continue being excited, but just to make sure that it's just, you're not kind of spreading your energy everywhere.
Absolutely.
Helpful. And I think lastly, your comment about the network, with the audience today, and Susan has also kindly offered to do this, do reach out to us on LinkedIn or through the Tech4Eva program. If there are any insights, any help that we can give, with Susan's experience, with my experience, really happy to do that. It's always good to get to know more and more people, especially in this, femtech and health tech space. So please take us up on that. I think, opening it up for questions from the audience. There's a question from Sheila Sharma on, for you, Susan, on where investors have female representation on their boards. Is funding given to female-led businesses equal to that given to male-led businesses? That's a good question.
That is a really good question. Of course, it's hard to know, but I think we've had some really good examples recently. And I think there's two. Willow is one, which has just raised a phenomenal Series C. I think about an 80 million close on a Series C. And LV has done something very similar. And I think the more we see these female-led femtech businesses do sizable rounds of investment, the more comfort there will be. There is no distinction between a female-led femtech business and a male-led something else business. But I think we just need to see more and more examples coming through. But I can't say that I know the answer to that, there's a more of a bias towards men. It's just that there have been less women running businesses and there have been less femtech businesses. But I really think we're at this tipping point now of these businesses looking very, very attractive because women invest more in their healthcare. It's as simple as that as well.
Yeah, and invest in the healthcare of the rest of the family too. So it's a big, we're big spenders when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And we've got one last question from Jerome. Has your technology, does it relieve the pain induced by endometriosis? Have you looked at that at all?
We haven't looked at that. We have been working with a physical therapist at one of the big teaching hospitals, and she has observed an impact on pelvic pain, but we haven't pursued that clinical. Again, it's back to focus. There are many that we could go after with the brand and many applications, and we can see how we could get to them, but we are taking this very stepwise approach to it. So we don't know, but we know anecdotally and through literature that there are many applications of this neuromuscular electrical stimulation. We know pain is one of the areas that can relieve. So that's so far we haven't pursued that.
Yeah, given the focus and that makes a lot of sense. But I think what it does lead us to know is that the future is exciting. The future for Atlantic Therapeutics is very exciting. This is definitely a space that I'm watching closely, as well as many others. And I think the future for, companies and fundraising and investors investing in femtech and health tech is really, really exciting. For the coming months ahead, I'm really keen to see how this year closes out. I think it's certainly, everything's going up to the right, as we bankers like to see. But it's really exciting with your US traction, and wish you all the best of luck with your market expansion. And thank you very much for taking the time to share your insights and your journey so far.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Sophie, and being on the journey with us as well. As I say, the network and the support that the business is surrounded by is one of the really important success factors. So it's great to have your partnership too. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And back to you.
Thank you, Sophie and Susan. So now our event is coming to an end, and I would like to thank our audience for participating from around the world. You will always find the latest information on Tech4Eva's website, tech4eva.ch, or through our social media that you can find on your screen. If you'd like to join the Tech4Eva community, here are the next events. Thank you all, have a good evening, and see you soon.